regards, I suppose.
I hate to talk on top of Scarlett because nice person and such, but I finally figured out that the original thesis is roughly correct. Store-bought seeds pollinate to the plant in 3 months, like clockwork. If you trim them heavily, it will not in any way delay their ascension into the blooming plant, nor will it affect it in any way. While the seeds you get from the bags grow to the pollination stage when there is the same amount of root matter as there is leaf matter. Therefore, once they start pollinating, if you cut the flowers out, it will notice less leaf than roots and start producing more leaf matter. Then once it's same again and it determines that it's at the extent of its nutrition availability, it will convert the remaining nutrients and the green matter it can find into flowers and then put seeds in them. If it can find another male plant, which is fairly rare for this plant, it will use that one's DNA, but is more likely that it will use its own DNA to make the copy. So the plant will be relatively identical. There will be minor changes to the DNA, but relatively identical. So it is like the banana tree in that it is genetically across its very specific subspecies, very much a singular. And that means that the store-bought seeds must not be trimmed at any point. If leaves fall off due to being dead, then they should be buried back in the soil. But it should not be trimmed for any reason. And because it doesn't make normal leaf material, my tree started to look like this. The previous one still made leaf material at the end, so it would have made large branches, but it just had a tiny, like a polyp at the end. But the lower levels, which are, I believe, this store-bought version's life support, if you will, seem to be not producing pollen and in fact producing the green part, which makes me think that once I cut the part out that is turning into pollen and I put it much closer to the light from the bottom parts, we now see if the bottom parts start producing pollen, in which case it is essentially doomed to die in 3 months if it's made from the store-bought seeds. In other case, it's like any other genetically engineered food organism. If it does like the hybrid, in that it now starts to make leaves again, it is still viable in the store-bought seeds, but the store-bought seeds clearly are engineered to give the sense of 3 months and then it dies. While the standard rural type seeds, which are from the bags, are the ones that tend to grow into the enormous 3-meter tall trees that you sometimes see with like 100 kilos of weed on them. But this seems to be impossible with the store-bought seeds, which give me some ideas of why this particular, the green movement from the scientific end is not opposed to genetic engineering. Jotkut näistä osuu todella hyvin sillä, että mullakin meinaa leuka lopsahtaa, kun tulee näitä tutkimustuloksia. Jotkut on ihan semmoista, että mainitset sen tuloksen ja seuraavat 20 vuotta sillä alalla, vaikka sä sanoisit mitä, niin kukaan toinen tutkija ei ota tosissaan, niin kuin toi Gaia-teoria. Silloin kun se tehtiin, niin ei ne tekijät oikein ymmärtänyt, että Gaia-teoria tarkoittaa näille, jotka tätä asiaa katsoo kristillisestä näkökulmasta tai siitä, että elämä ei ole itse tietoista, niin saatana-teorialta. Se ne ei oikein sisäistänyt sitä. Se muistutti näitä uskontoja, jos on tää luontohenki ja se ei ollut kauhean hyvä. Kun kun siinä sanottiin, että se luontohenki siinä Gaia-teoriassa ei itse asiassa niinkään välitä siitä, että ihmiset tuhoaa tai on tuhoamatta. Se ei ollut semmoinen teoria, että siellä on yläpuolella semmoinen organismi, joka valvoo, vaan semmoinen, että jos sulla on kilpailevia organismeja niin kuin suljetulla ympäristöllä, niin siinä käy luonnollisesti niin, että ne muodostaa semmoisen verkon, että yksi syö sitä planeettaa, toinen syö sitä, joka syö sitä planeettaa ja niin edelleen. Että siihen tulee semmoinen verkosto niitä organismeja, mikä aiheuttaa sen, että jos sinne planeettaan lisätään jotain, niin ne organismit, jotka syö sitä, mitkä siellä on vapaana, jota sinne lisätään, niin lisääntyy eka. Mutta siinä on pieni delay. Se oli sen teorian pointti. Siinä teoriassa sanottiin, että vaikka aurinko lämpenee sillain miljardissa vuodessa, että päivän tasa-ajalla saattaa olla veden kiehumispiste, niin silti elämä pysyy planeetalla ainakin 2 miljardia vuotta. Sen takia mä digaan siitä teoriasta. Se sanoi, että sen jälkeen, kun on tullut semmoinen, mitä voidaan niin kuin kuvailla robust-ekosysteeminä, niin se on huomattavasti vaikeampi poistaa kuin mitä ihmiset luulee. Se oli sen teorian ydinpisteitä. Että vaikka sä niin kuin kuinka näkisit vaivaa, niin se todella pitää se koko planeetan ilmakehä kiehuttaa ainakin 600-700 asteeseen ennen kuin se kuolee kaikki, eikä välttämättä vielä silloinkaan. Sitten jos se on ihan semmoinen alkava ekosysteemi, että siinä on jotain yhtä mutaatioa, niin sitten sen saattaa saada vielä pois. Se oli se sen teoria-idea. Kun se sanottiin ääneen, niin se Lovelock, se tutkija, niin se oli niin vittu hohojaa sentään. Sitten meni jonkun aikaa ja sitten sieltä tuli sieltä suvusta niitä muitakin. Nyt se suku tunnetaan semmoisena, että niillä on hyvin absurdeja semmoisia ideoita, mutta sitten kun ne laitetaan tekemään jotain, niin se teknologia voi todella olla semmoista, että kukaan ei tajua, mitä se toimii. Ne on niin kuin örkkeitä tai sillä lailla.
Take a fourth? Oh, fifth. Fifth base.
Big fan. Love your stream.
Toi on jotain ihan Pohjois-Kanadaa, mitä toi puhuu nyt, kun mä luen.
Hello.
Se on sieltä pääkaupunkiseudulta, mutta se on henkisesti ihan sieltä pohjoisesta. Samanlainen niin kuin ajattelun ja tulkinnan aspekti, kuin mitä mä tunnitsen lappalaisilla tai lappilaisilla itse asiassa. Silloin kun puhutaan niistä, jotka on Suomen pääasiallisesta väestöstä, mutta muuttanut tai asuu Lapissa, niin silloin ne on lappilaisia. Sitten jos puhutaan niistä paikallisista, niin silloin ne on lappalaisia. Näin mä sen noin ymmärtän. Mun mielestä. Niin.
Portal, thank you so much again. Donation, really appreciate it.
Ei mitään, oot paljon rohkeampi kuin minä.
Unbind movement. Oh, I guess I've gone for a while now.
Mä tiedän, että jos olisi mahdollista vaihtaa kehoa sukupuolesta toiseen ja takaisin kivuttomasti, niin mä tekisin ihan 100% varmasti. Jos sitä pystyisi vaihtelemaan sillä tavalla, että tänään olen ja tänään olen ja tänään olen, niin kokeilisin kaikki tummatukkaset, valkotukkaset, pitkät, lyhyet, niin kuin kaikki. Tietäisin, että miten ihmisten ennakkoasenteet, niihin tuntuu oikeasti sieltä sisäpuolelta ja sitten lähtisin miettimään, että miten muuttaa niitä omia ennakkoasenteita, että tulisi niin kuin hyvä kuva. Ei välttämättä niin kuin ehkä ihan hyvä kuva, mutta siis rehellinen kuva. Sitten voisi vähän katsoa pidemmälle. Yeah. Muistan tämän episodin. Mulla oli noin 2 viikkoa ennen Ukrainan sotaa semmoinen painajainen, josta mä en muista mitään muuta kuin, että siinä oli 2 kultaisen niin kuin hohtavaa, vihasta ihmistä huutamassa toisilleen niin kuin sillä lailla, että mä en nähnyt mitään muuta kuin tällä puolella toisen naama ja tällä puolella toisen naama, että ne oli niin lähellä mua. Ja sitten nukahtaminen ei ollut mitenkään ongelma, että heti kun mä heräsin siihen uneen esimerkiksi käymään kusella, niin sitten kun pää tyynyin, niin ei mennyt kuin 5 sekuntia siitä, että mä olin takaisin unessa. Ja koko unen aikana ei näkynyt mitään muuta. Vaan ne 2 huutavaa naamaa, jotka huusi toiselle. Se oli noin 2 viikkoa ennen Ukrainan sotaa. Se tuli kerran se uni ja sitten palattiin siihen, että tulee niitä normaaliunia, mitkä on niitä metsäseikkailuja melkein poikkeuksetta. Aina joku randomi eri mesta, missä on jonkinlainen maasto ja sitten siellä seikkaillaan ja tehdään kaikkea tyhmää ja pelleillään ja juostaan ympäri niin kuin metsä. Sitten välillä siellä on jotain treffejä ja välillä siellä on jotain muuta. Se riippuu ihan, että mitä mä niin kuin seuraavana päivänä tarviin eniten. Alitajunta edellisenä päivänä arvioi sen, että mitä mä tarviin siihen seuraavan päivään niin premppaamiseen. Ja näyttää semmoiset tunnet, että aamulla on semmoinen olo, että kun herää, niin on ihan valmis sen päivän tapahtumaan. Että se niin kuin tuntuu siltä, että se avustaa. Mä oon muutaman kerran alitajunnaa käynyt semmoisia unimaailmoja läpi, että kumpaakaan ei kiinnosta rääkätä toisiaan siinä unessa. Kummatkin tietää, että jos napsahtaa mulla sille alitajunnalle, niin minähän satana juoksen sen jumiin. Kun alitajunta on ne, jotka katsoo sun silmien takaa, mutta ei assosioidu siihen pääajatukseen. Se on alitajunta. Minähän juoksen semmoiseen metsään, että kenelläkään ei ole kivaa. Sitten vaan inkarnoituu pois sieltä, jos häiritsee. Sitten kun oot ulkopuolelle, niin tuu sanoa, kuin mukavaa siellä sitä. Se on mun alitajunnan juttu. Ja sitten taas kun alitajunta pimahtaa, niin se pystyy rääkkää sillä lailla, että kukaan ihminen ei pysty mihinkään sinne suuntaan katsomaan. Se on ihan semmoista, että siinä ei ole mitään tolkkua. Sitten taas, jos kummatkin haluaa vaan kokea jotain siistiä, niin niitä lopputuloksia, mitä sieltä tulee, niin todella niin kuin hattu nousee. Se on velmutunne olla mustan aukon vieressä. Sinne pintaan tai sinne alle, niin mä en ole unessa päässyt. Kerran on tietoisena mennyt, mutta en voi suositella. Unessa sitä ei halua tehdä, kun se on liian kivuliasta. Mutta siinä vieressä sillä lailla, että tuntee sen, kun joku objekti vetää hirveällä voimalla puoleensa ja siinä on sellainen niin tuulen pauhu, mutta sillä lailla, että niin tuntee, että se ei ota siitä kehosta kiinni, vaan että se niin tausta juoksee siitä ohi. Se on outo tunne. Sitten kun sen tuntee niin semmoisena painostavana ja se ilmiö, että silloin kun se on niin parin metrin päässä, niin se tuntuu siltä, kun se olisi kokonaan ympärillä ja siellä toisessa päässä näkyisi vaan enää semmoinen pistevalo, niin se on aika ovela. Se ei tule kauheasti unissa läpi. Unessa se on semmoinen, että ihan kuin se unikeho olisi semmoinen, että se on ihan pikkusen sen mustan aukon hahmotuskyvyn ulkopuolella. Kuulostaa siltä. Sitten taas vastaavasti ne sillä lailla, että kun tömähtää niihin ja vaihtaa niitä aikajanoja siellä unessa, niin se ei ole mitenkään ihmeellistä. Se on mielenkiintoinen tunne unessa herätä ja sitten nukahtaa uudestaan. Kun kääntää unessa sillä lailla ovelasti kylkeen. Sillä että jaa, nyt mä oon tossa pinnassa, no mä lähden tosta pinnasta projektoituun tonne suuntaan. Sitten täällä on tämmöiset olosuhteet ja sitten ilmestyy ne kaverit siihen viereen. Sitten lait minne. Sitten sieltä löytyy joku mielenkiintoinen mesta, millä lähdetään juoksemaan. Tähän pitäisi saada semmonen, että tää pop-uppaa, kun tulee viesti. Mulle tuli muutama, mutta ei niinku näyttänyt, että olisi joku viesti. Se vaan oli sillä, että mä huomasin. Puhuvat tosta Ukrainan sodasta niin kuin kaikki tällä hetkellä. Sanoin tonne samaa kuin todelliseen maailmaankin, että mä venasin joku 2 viikkoa siitä, kun se sota alkoi. Mä katsoin, että onko ne ihan tosissaan siitä, että ne alkaa sotimaan. En sanonut mitään jo. Pitkitin ja kävin palavereja turvallisuushenkilöstöjen ja muiden kanssa ja mietin asiaa ja näin poispäin. Sitten kun oli 2 viikkoa mennyt ja se näytti siltä, että kyllä ne ukrainalaiset todella niin kuin aikoo pistää vastaan, kun se tulee se naapuri sinne. Sitten mä tein sen, mitä mä tein, että mä
katoin, että mitä kaikkea kalustoa meillä on, mikä on vanhaa, mikä pitäisi jossain vaiheessa uusia. Ja sillä että se on varastossa, että kyllä se niinku, et ei se niinku kentällä ole, vaan siis ihan siellä varastossa. Ja sitten katoin, että sinne varastoon rakentuu vaikka jonkun 150 jalkaväen sotilaan koko aseistukseen päivässä. Ja siellä on joku 20 000 jotain kiväärejä, jotka on 5 sukupolvea vanhaa ja 5 000, jotka on 6 sukupolvea vanhaa. Ja sitten ei oikeastaan yhtään sitä uudempaa, mutta näkee, että ihan vähän ja sitten niitä uusimpia ei ole yhtään, kun ne menee vielä koko ajan sinne kentälle. Sitten kun ne päätyy sinne, niin ne aina kierrätetään ne vanhimmat sieltä niin kuin uudistuvasta puulista niin sinne varastoon. Ja koko armeijan strengthi 100%, eli kaikki kalusto, mitä periaatteessa pitäisi olla. Ja niin kuin tällainen, niin sitten mä lähetin kaiken, mikä on 2 sukupolvea tai enemmän, niin vanhaan suoraan pulkkina ulkomaille. Kauheasti ollut, että jos mä sen bitcoineihin laittaisin, niin voisi ehkä puhua jostain 5-15 bitcoinista. Mutta kun mulla on bitcoineina tällä hetkellä käteiskassassa 16 miljoonaa, niin ei se nyt ihan kauheasti ollut. Niin kuin mä arvasin, niin noi bitcoinit kehittyy siihen suuntaan, että sieltä tulee semmoinen, että jos sä pelissä teet, niin se tulee todellisuuteen. Niin kuin mä arvasinkin. Siinä on ihan semmoinen, että jos sä teet pelissä semmoisen, mistä on helppo jonkun toisen siirtää sillä verukkeella, niin rahaa jonnekin suuntaan, niin sitten se jossain vaiheessa siirtyy myös sullekin. Eli jos sä oot pelimaailmoissa pelannut ja luonut semmoisen tasaisen, lähes yksimielisen hahmokuvan, jossa sä teet aina vähän samalla lailla, niin toitsi kuinka helppo siihen on muiden tehdä semmoinen cover-teko. Niin kuin puhumattakaan ihan siitä, että ne lähtee bettaamaan ne alitajunnan tyypit, että mitä se tekee ja sen perusteella tekee niitä omia liikkeitä, kun ne tietää, että miten se persona toimii. Siinä on vaan semmoinen, että sit jos lähtee tekemään jotain olettamatonta, niin se heiluu aika nopeasti. Siinä on vaan semmoisia juttuja. Nyt näyttää vähän siltä, että Ukraina pystyy mobilisoitumaan siihen pisteeseen, että ne pystyy pakottamaan sen Venäjän mobilisoimaan sen siviiliväestönsä ja kääntämään sen teollisuutensa sotaväestöksi. Se vaikuttaa, jos sitä haluaa pitää poliisioperaationa, niin vähän absurdilta. Se vaikuttaa siltä, että poliisit joutuu niin soittamaan vaikka jollekin tyyliin kaupungin kansalaisille, että tulkaa tänne lynkkaamaan tämä porukka, kun meidän voimat ei riitä. Se vaikuttaa vähän huonolta. Kun ne ei ole enää sillä edes nimellisesti niitä ammattisotilaita, vaan ne on ihan vaan sieltä reservistä haettu. Niin siinä ei voi paljon mistään muusta sit puhua kuin just semmoisesta oikeasta sodasta. Kummatkin vaan huvikseen pieksee toisensa takas kivikaudelle ja nousee sieltä ylös. Kun kyllä Ukrainan miehitettyä saisi siitä ole kiinni Venäjänä, mutta se on täysin sit nyt kiinni näyttää niin siltä, että riittiinkö Venäjä mobilisoitua. Kun siitä ei puhuta enää ihan 1-2-3 miljardista, paljon se maksaa. Jos ne laittaa esimerkiksi 5% koko väestöstään sotilaskoulutukseen, niin se saattaa just riittää. Joku 10% kuulostaa siltä, että se saattaisi riittääkin. Muuttaa teollisuudestaan joku 40-50% siihen, että ne tuottaa pelkästään modernia sotakalustoa. Siinä menee ainakin 2-3 vuotta, kun sen muutoksen tekee Venäjän kokoisella valtiolla. Kyllä sen siihen pisteeseen saa milloin tahansa, että sinne virtaa enemmän joukkoja kuin mitä se kuolee, mutta me nyt puhutaankin siitä, että ne saadaan oikeasti lieviä myöten niin vallattua. Se ei ole yhtään niin helppo nakki. Sitten jos se on jossain 10% se väestö ja 40% teollisuudesta, siihen menee pari vuotta, niin itse kuinka paljon länsi aseistautuu siinä aikana. Ne toteaa, että se tulee seuraavaksi jonkun muun päälle. Sitten käy sillä lailla, että kun se Kiina sieltä pääsee nousemaan, niin sitten länsimailla on niin paljon aseita, että se on ihan merkityksetöntä, kenellä on se talousvalta sillä aikaa. Se näyttää sitten vähän huonolta sillä, jos tarkoitus olisi kuitenkin saada tuo itäblokki jo voittamaan tuo länsiblokki. Niin se näyttää siltä, että siinä ollaan lyömässä sitä Ukrainaa sen takia, että länsi saataisiin aseisiin, kun Kiina tulee päälle. mikä on mun mielestä vähän paradoksaalinen tapa, mutta kyllä se niinkin voi tehdä. Kyllä se mitenkään mahdottomuus on. Tapa nyt se vitu arkoni siitä, no ei sitten. Vittu sun kanssa. Siinä on ollut vitu hyvä sauna, olisit menettänyt ihan vitu vähän. Ei mikrohallinta riittänyt. Hyvin sä silti pelaatiin siinä, mutta silti siinä on sun ikkuna. Mun mielestä ei kannata tehdä niitä Svarmulardeja sit kun ihan show-meiningiksi, niin tää loppui kyllä tähän. Mä karjeri piäkseen on sun ilmavoimaa ja kevyesti. Videtiin.
Dead?
Dead, very dead. Very much dead.
That was a bit very sloppy just now.
No. Katsopa siinä vaiheessa, kun se vittu tulee sieltä sun päälle siinä ensimmäisessä tappelussa ja keskellä. Niin. Katsotaanko mä nettiin?
I was way ahead until just then.
Blutch. Moving on. Niinpä. It's complicated this unnecessarily. You know what cervix cancer is?
Suppose I'll go over there.
Ja sit mulla ei... Niin.
Patch now.
Niin. Mä oon edelleenkin sitä mieltä. Tiedät, meillä tulee tässä
I'm
erimielisyys.
lagging a bit. Maybe it's the stream settings. I changed them a bit before this.
Tulee meille erimielisyys, mutta kyllä mä silti on sitä mieltä. Meillä on nyt jo teknologia tehdä munasoluja tai siittiösoluja ihosoluista tai kantasoluista. Me ei ole vielä niillä ketään hedelmöitetty ja meillä ei ole mitään varmaa laajaa eläinkoetta. Jos me tiedettäisiin, että tuleeko siitä jotain perinnöllisiä tauteja tai jotain, niin sitä ei vielä suositella
My
käytettävä.
computer keeps freezing.
Mutta mahdotonta se ei ole. Ottaa ketä tahansa ihminen ja tehdä sen mistä tahansa solusta, jos näkyy koko DNA, niin sukusolu. Niitä ei vielä tiedetä, että niin tuleeko niille esimerkiksi kaikille 10-vuotiaana tai syöpä tai jotain. Niin pitää ensiksi tehdä jonkin aikaa vielä eläinkokeita.
Hopefully it fixes it.
Se on vaan semmoinen teknologia, jos tulee ihan hirveä sotku, kun se tulee laajaan käyttöön. Jengi alkaa tekemään näistä historiallisista hautasampleista niin sit niitä sukusoluja ja tekemään ihan oikeita niin kuin Child of Genghis Khaneja. Niin siinä on vaan semmoinen attribuutti.
For the
Se
sub-argument.
menee vähän huonoksi.
So,
Sen perusteella, mitä mä niistä tiedän, niin ei
I
niillä
was
tuntuisi
one of the
olevan mitään
people
haittaa.
in the
Ihan
discussion.
pikkasen keskittyneempiä ne tuntuu olevan.
Or like when we
Niistä
discussed
vähän
the
hohtaa
changes,
semmoinen,
a
että
lot
niissä on
of
sellainen
other,
keskitysattribuutti.
like Karsten mentioned, he
Muuta
was
mä
in
en
his
ole
review.
oikein
I'm not
huomannut.
gonna do like a super serious review. Just gonna go over all the changes. Not gonna make a YouTube video or anything. But if anyone has any questions, then, go ahead and ask. So weird artifacts on your screen is your GPU dying. Yeah, I changed the GPU settings on the stream encoding, so maybe I need to switch that back before next stream. It seems a bit glitchy. So the shield battery change, actually this is the one I'm happiest with of all the changes, even though like it has the least effect on pro level games probably of any of the changes here. It was just the most frustrating thing ever to lose to the etc.
If we jump from this to controlling the opposition while using this.
Yeah, it was the most frustrating thing ever, and it felt like it kind of limited the map makers in a way where they had to spend a lot of time on every map like making sure that the map wasn't too inbutt for cannon rush. There was like for Romanticide is a good example of a map where like Zerg's vetoed it because it was bad in the longer games against Protoss, but the map was also completely broken for cannon rush. And like it's a big concern for map makers about like you have to check everywhere to make sure you can't wall spots with 2 feet pylons and such. And this is going to reduce the necessity for that as well when they're at least for like the PvZ centric cannon rushes. For PvP it's a bit different because it's more focused on the main base, but for PvZ it's more about like around the expansion. There's just a lot of issues with you have to make sure you can't block off something with like 2 pylons or even 3 pylons some of the time with rewall potential. And then a lot of people, like Terrans, have issues with defending the kind of proxy void ray plus battery all-ins. Like the high diamond Master League, low Grandmaster League, mid Grandmaster League even. Like the build is so difficult to stop compared to how easy it was to execute. So this also shouldn't really cause too many issues in terms of nerfing shield batteries on the defensive. Because if you start the shield battery after the Nexus, it still starts with 100 energy. So it shouldn't change too much in terms of securing an expansion unless for some reason you want to build a shield battery before you even start the Nexus. Which might come up a few times in the PvP matchup, but I don't think that really ever comes up in the other matchups. It might change a bit late game in terms of if people like made areas in the middle of the map with Tempests and then built batteries under them. But that wasn't common, and like, the shield batteries still gain the energy over time. Yeah, it used to say Nexus Field. There was some typos with in StarCraft. There's like a T here, and there was a grammar issue with this. And I think whoever fixed it, their autocorrect automatically changed Nexus to Next. So the initial version of the page said Nexus Field. But yeah, it just means the same area where you could photon overcharge, battery overcharge. A battery is the same as this. So that you also get the nice visual indicator when you're going to place the battery. It turns blue if it's going to have less energy, or you can't photon overcharge it. Battery overcharge it, and it's green if you can. Autocorrect, yeah, I think it was autocorrect. So Dark Templar now have a 0.75 attack delay after blink. This isn't really going to affect me that much as a Zerg player. This was mainly to do with the PvT matchup. It's also going to have, I think, somewhat big impacts in PvP. But that was less the focus of the change. It was more focused on the PvT matchup where it was incredibly hard to play the game after like trying to take more than 4 bases. Because DTs were so supply efficient in terms of the ability to go and snipe a base, as well as they don't show up on sensor towers, unlike any other unit really that's coming to harass your base. You could warp them in relatively close to like the base with a warp prism, but like that was not as big of a deal. It's more the fact that unless you leave like a huge amount of army at a base, they can always just kill it with like 10 DT. And yes, 10 DT is expensive, but this is more focused on the kind of the stage of the game where the Protoss has a big economy. So it's more about denying the Terran base in the same way that running a bunch of Banelinks into a planetary, it's not cost efficient for the Zerg, but it's useful because you're generally on a much larger economy. And it's a similar situation where the Protoss, a lot of the time, had a much larger economy at the time where they would use this. And it was way more cost efficient than even like Baneling run buys into planetaries, for example. I think a lot of people took the biggest issue with this change in terms of Protoss players. Because they felt like, why is this happening? But yeah, it's mainly PvT, and I think it's a good change. One sec. Okay, one thing that I didn't even realize until yesterday, because a lot of the Protoss players are complaining in relation to the patch notes because if you look at them, right, there's a Protoss nerf, Protoss nerf, Protoss nerf, Protoss nerf. So there's 4 Protoss nerfs, right? You get a Zerg nerf, a Terran nerf, a Zerg nerf. So like, why is Protoss getting nerfed 4 times? Zerg getting nerfed once or twice, and Zerg getting a small buff, and then Terran getting a buff. And honestly, it's because of well, first off, like this is a bigger nerf in terms of for Zerg than like these are for Protoss against Zerg. Like this is a huge nerf in terms of it. It allows Protoss way more flexibility with their early game build orders. Like they won't feel as forced into playing Twilight or Robo on maps like Curious Minds, where like got all the small maps where there was no real effective way to open Stargate safely, and Stargate is like so much better of a build order against Zerg than any of the other build orders. What was I saying? Oh yeah, and some people aren't understanding. They're like, well, if Voider's getting nerfed, why is Greenwalk getting nerfed? Because this is Greenwalk's to counter Voider. And it's kind of, this is not really true. In a lot of ways, like the 2 Stargate Voider build was meant to counter Greenwalks. On any like mid-sized map where Greenwalks would have been an issue in the past against a Protoss opening Oracle into ground, Greenwalk is much stronger against that kind of build than it was against the 2 Stargate Voider. Because with 2 Stargate Voider, you're intending to overpower the queens with batteries supported, Voider supported by batteries. Whereas if you're switching into ground, there's no way to overpower the queens with your oracles, right? And it comes at a time where you have no Twilight upgrade, you have no Forge upgrade, and you have to be adding all your production as a Protoss player. So it's very hard to stop a Queen Walk if you're opening Oracle into ground. A lot of the Protoss, like, it was just better to play 1 Stargate Voider than to play 2 Stargate Voider, except for the case of Queen Walk. Like, the second Stargate is made specifically so you can Chronobos out extra Voiders to stop a Queen Walk. So this change. So if you just nerf this by itself, like, it's not going to mean Zerg isn't Queen Walking, right? And if you nerf Queen Walk, like, Protoss is still going to, they're going to play Voider, but they're going to play...
I'm getting a very specific...
Oh, fuck you too.
Zerg Queen Bust doesn't work if they go Nidus after Overlord Speed, after keeping with Overlord. It hits later, so the Protoss has more of an opportunity to scout and react to it.
1 month.
In terms of the very fast ones, it wasn't quite clear when you're scouting a lot of the time, because the Roachborn isn't that much earlier with a Queen Walk than with the standard defensive build, and like you're not taking gases that much faster. Whereas if you want to go Nidus, like you have plenty of time to scout the Nidus and then spread stuff out to stop the Nidus from coming up, right? Or if you're talking about like the one with the Queen drop, it hits later. You see the Overlord speed, right? You need the layer done. It's not like you're coming. You just start sending the queens across at a time where it's not that much different than if you're just macroing. Like it's much harder to scout the earlier Queen Walks than it is to scout the later ones. And it also makes the execution much harder for Zerg in those kind of builds, where you have to worry about your queens are always on creep at the time. If there's ramps, it makes things more awkward for the Zerg. So I was going to say, another thing is that just balancing the game 100% based on who wins the World Championship, I think is quite a silly way of going about it. Because I want to show you something. If you look at the PVZ overall tournament games in last month, like despite the fact that the Zerg won Katowice last month, right? This is like the most imbalanced the matchup has been in terms of average overall tournament games since 2010. First time it's been more than 60%. Before that, it was like 58%. It was because it's so hard to play against Skybox in some of these builds as lower level players. It's just so much harder for the Zerg player if you can't micro disruptors against carriers plus multiple types of spellcasters. And even then, like, it's so hard to survive to the point where you have to. So the goal of the patch should be to give Protoss more of a chance at the very, very top level, but also it should be attempting to make Zerg have more of a chance below the very, very, very top level. Because if you look at like Master League or Master League, most tournament results, they heavily rate despite what a lot of people's arguments are based on, which is simply who wins WCS Europe or who wins
Scandinavian Union.
People lose interest if the race is not represented in the pro scene. Yeah, exactly. But that's why I'm saying, like, you need to have changes that are aimed at the very top level while also having like changes that are also aimed at the lower level. So you don't. I think part of the problem with Zerg, if you look at the race since 2017, since like the post BlizzCon patch in 2017 until now, the race has been nerfed a few times, and despite that, right, Zerg keeps winning. Zerg has won every BlizzCon since 2017. Zerg has won every Katowice since 2017. So a lot of people are frustrated, right? But this isn't as much to do with, in my opinion at least, it's not as much to do with the patches. It's not like Zerg keeps getting buffed, Protoss keeps getting nerfed through the patches since this time. It's that there's been a few improvements on, especially the mechanic side of what the top Zergs are using and what they figured out. That means that very, very, very top level Zerg has way more potential than they did like pre-2017. First in 2017, Rogue discovered the modern way that people do attacks nowadays, which is, it's like a setup where you have the queens on a hotkey, and then I'm not as good at it, but I'm gonna try and demonstrate it a bit. We have the queens on the hotkey, and then you use the camera locations, and then you like have a pattern with your fingers where you can eject all 4 bases in like half a second. And this frees up a lot of time for the Zerg to be doing other stuff. And then also, there's another big thing where people started using keyboards that allow you to increase the repeat rate a lot faster than the normal Windows setting allows. And then in Windows 10, there's also a change where an operating system where you can do this through the registry, which everyone uses. Like everyone uses it. The Protoss use it, the Zerg use it. But this increased repeat rate, it helps Zerg way more than most other races. Because if you're producing units, you have 40 larvae, you want to build 40 pairs of Zerglings. Now you can do it like 5 times faster, or maybe even more than 5 times. If you're spreading creep, you can hold down like the C key and wave your mouse across the screen. And you can spread creep way faster with a lot of terminals than you used to be able to do. And changes like this have made at the very top level, Zerg it's a lot stronger than it used to be. It's like not specific to do with balance patches in the game itself that causes this. Opinion at least. So, because Zerg has the most potential with like creep spread, right? What's the equivalent of a Protoss player spreading creep? Like there's really nothing. Even Chrono Boost, right? Chrono Boost, it's simpler to do than Ajax. But like you're limited at a much lower level as Protoss pro gamer might be with Chrono Boost. Whereas until you get to like the very, very top side of the world, they're always getting better at Ajax. And now like they're all like perfect at it basically. If you look at Terrell, Raider, Rogue, like they've basically perfect angels. Whereas with Chrono Boost, like, what can you do? chrono boost your forge or your upgrade every 30 seconds. Like every once in a while you go chrono boost the stargates. It's much easier for the Protoss players to maximize the potential of this, whereas the potential of creep shred is much bigger, and the potential of injecting is, at least, I think, is a little bit bigger than with chrono boost in terms of an longer game. So, should we demonstrate the injecting? So what you have is your queens, like 4 queens on a control group. And what people used to do in the past was they would press F1 for the camera key, select the queen, eject, click, right? F2, select, eject, F3, select, eject. You can do it pretty quickly. But now people have them all on a hotkey, one at each base. And then I have rebound my larva also to space for this. But you can do it like that. Way faster than that, actually, if you're doing it. Like that. And I mean, if you're looking at Zero Raider, they do it with like even significantly
In fact, I mean,
so like the fact that Zerg now have effectively infinite larvae in a macro game has made the race much better at using like bait in a longer game without being forced to spend a lot of money on macro actions. Kind of random. Talk about what I mean where the problem at the pro level hasn't been balanced. That's just in terms of making Zerg stronger. It's just mechanical adjustments. Jack Attack was the first to discover this back in 2014. Oh, what do you mean? Other shows. Void Ray. So the Void Ray got buffed. It got buffed 4 times at once in the last patch before this, which was build time from 43 to 37, mineral cost to 5200. The speed got increased, and then the flux speed got increased. And personally, I think that 4 buffs to 1 unit in 1 patch, like it's a bit pushing, right?
Tobacco awareness campaign.
Basically being never built.
I don't want to see this shit.
Every game in terms of.
You want me to make you a study about how much seeing that shit gives you cancer?
So this isn't making Void Ray like worse than it's ever been. It's just reverting 2 of the 4 buffs. And yes,
it's private land. Poverty is increasing together, increasing the cost of basic things that people are addicted to. And this is pretty cheap, but I would rather do the other end.
As strong as it is right now.
And social care is now at maximum.
I prefer like these 2 changes than if you were to say
much
the better cost you
the retired people like me on this model.
The reason for that is there's
fast going down.
in terms of using it as offensive, if you didn't do this instead of the boost speed nerf, like it doesn't really disincentivize the Protoss from going 1 Stargate and making like 3 or 4 Void Rays from it. Because in the past builds, they still had like time when the Stargate was idle in like the standard build order. So like this alone doesn't change that. And then in terms of using on the defensive, like the boost speed doesn't really do anything. So I'm happy with these 2 changes. Speed nerf instead. Do you think we still get the 4 voids of this from the inferior games or during this Christmas? I think you'll still see 1 Void Ray a lot of the time. Like, people will experiment with going multiple oracles with no other Stargate unit. Maybe some people will try Phoenix into oracles, like they did the past, like 1 Phoenix, 3 oracle. But I think 1 Void Ray into 2 oracles would be pretty common as well. I don't think there's a reason to make much Void Rays anymore, though, because you're not really worried about the people. And even 1 Void Ray against the kind of build where you fly your overlords across the map, your queens across the map and overlords and top team, that kind of main attack like we saw in the past. The Void Ray is still going to be quite nice against that because it significantly slowed down the speed of the actually Rocket Queens. Kind of the void ray. Hold on. So yeah, the queen. This is specifically targeted at like APBZ. Some people have brought up issues where like they say it could cause an issue with a CBZ 1312 defense, for example, where you kind of want two queens on the ramp and they use to transfuse each other. That's actually something to keep in mind. I think on the current map, well, it's not an issue because you get creep on your ramp on all the maps, but it could definitely be an issue in the future. One thing I can say, I'm allowed to say about this patch, because we're under an NDA, so we can't say everything, right, about what we talk about internally. But they said we could talk about the intentions with the patch. And this patch was intended to come out before Katowice. Like, that's what, when the people were all discussing what changes to do, we were under the impression that these were going to be pre-Katowice changes. So there's nothing, like, crazy in the patch. To go live. It was intended to go live before Katowice, like, in terms of when we were discussing what changes to do. So a lot of people are like, well, why isn't there anything big? And it's because the intention was to not break the game before Katowice, but like make the game more interesting. Fix some of the more broken stuff before Katowice, which I think is something important to note. And then what am I introduced an effectiveness of drilling clause? These two changes are just to give more counterplay against these two units, Widowmine and Lurker. Right now, if you drop Drilling Claws Widowmine on that winner lane, you don't have time to pull the workers away before like the Widowmine will shoot. And also the Lurker for running up in range of an enemy army, being able to burrow and then still trade cost efficiently against it. This isn't gonna like completely get rid of the fact that lurkers can run into combat and burrow, but it's just a first step towards addressing it. Like it'll make it less oppressive. Give more time to react by scanning before units stop firing, and there's gonna be less cases where you want to run into a target. Can you read the battle net for me? Comments in the patch. So will there be a crazy change? I mean, who knows? I'm hoping, like I said, I'm hoping that there's bigger changes in the future, but like, there might not be. I have no info about if it's gonna happen. Even if I did have info, I couldn't tell you. Because we have an NDA. And then the Nidus Worm, I think just, this is like such a minor buff, and the only intention with this is that you can still put queens as like the units in the Nidus to come out first, then you can transfuse it. I think a lot of people already mentioned this. It's just to not make Nidus significantly less compared to queens. And I think this could have been more clear in like the post stuff. Like if there was some intentions written out with each change, and like this was right next to the queen change, it would make a bit more sense. I think that's it for the notes itself. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and ask and we'll place more. Before now, I was responsible for the night street buff. No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I was not. I'm like 99% sure I was not. It was a long time ago, so I don't really remember. Do you think Queen Walks are still viable? I think they'll still be tried in some ways, more so with Overlord speed against specific Oracle into ground openings, but I think they're going to be much less common. Are Protoss underpowered? Like, it really depends. That's what I was talking about earlier on what level you're talking about. In the lower pro level, no. At the top pro level, yes. The gem level, definitely no. The master level, definitely no. What do you think about the cancel hatch the tumor trick? It's kind of awkward to pull off. So you have to build a hatchery, and then you can't even cancel a hatchery instantly, or the creep will disappear faster. You have to wait like 2 seconds, then cancel it. It's gonna be a bit awkward to use. And if you're trying to fight the world loss at the same time, it's gonna be very awkward. Another thing with the transfuse change is it might be a bit stronger to make a faster third queen, and then put a creep tumor before you take the third. So otherwise, they're getting kind of late phase attacks. It's gonna be a bit more difficult.
I will admit that my homegrown plant is, even though it's much milder than the street one.
Maybe a little bit, like sometimes in the very late game, if you're doing like if you do a broodlet switch, and then you attack right away, and then sometimes you pull your queens forward to transfuse them, that'd be amazing. I think the game is in a good state overall right now. No, I think it'll be better after the match. But I think it's quite silly matchup. Just the atmospheric enemies a bit sensitive. Yeah, a little bit after the 24th. A few people were a bit more nervous because it's that far away from Ukraine. But like time isn't unable to go back to China until April even. So no flights. Especially due to their COVID restrictions.
Now we can finally look at these, which are bad enough that we may go with this.
A lot of the Koreans were stuck in like Amsterdam or France, I think, on their way home. So the flights normally fly through Russia or Ukraine. Those all got cancelled, and the rebooked ones, much of them got cancelled as well. Bit of a situation. He was there for a long time.
Damn it.
I don't want to talk politics in the chat, so please refrain from this.
Come pick up. So, let's take a calmer look at this. We are 8 billion in deficit. Last time I basically went with the reductionist path, where you reduce spending slowly while doing improvements here and there. And it turns out that doing this thing through social care, as in raising it from 1 billion to 5 billion, is not sufficient to get the population to come with the removal of things like unemployment subsidies. Turns out. So,
That's all it came back actually. More smiles. Just need to survive basically, because you can always do damage with speed that's across the room. Coming. Switch to Eddie. This guy's dead, right? Yeah. Eddie ladder. It's crazy how I already missed the defense and she's easy build too. I made a few mistakes though. Or it would have been much easier. Like I can just leave the spikes in the main base winner line. Send way more lanes across the map. Don't lose the queen for free at the natural. Few ladders.
I have no problem with everybody finding out that carbon in the environment
Any
seems
problem with
like
the
a bad
transfused block
idea.
their abdomen?
We can talk details
I think there's
further,
also
but
builds that are very good. I think not as many people know it below like the top level that give you creep in the main base quickly against Protoss and Terran. I didn't say that because I said ladders
alcohol consumption.
but yeah, that give you creep in the main base. That are very good builds. Great reasons. So much creep in the main base already. LAs are choice. Ladders.
I will actually do like this.
Always wanted to ask, did you sell your bitcoins from Total Biscuit so much against Tiny back in 2014? I did. As soon as there was like an easy exchange that you could use in Canada, which wasn't for a while, I sold them. Didn't get that much for them compared to the current prices. Feels bad. It's wrong. You go over how you inject a bit more. I believe either Lambo or maybe Sordo has a video on YouTube about the injection. It's the same one that they would use. The only different styles to rebuild it. I added spaces on the keeper inject just to make it cheaper stuff on keeper. So if you check out their YouTube, there's a video on there. I think Rocker was the famous incident at a Cannon Rush. Nexus first into Cannon Rush. Classic build. Classic NA build. Send a drone down as soon as this probe does anything suspicious.
I'm gonna be assassinated. I'm sure. It's gonna be glorious. It's gonna be somebody collect the greens again. Environmental alliance. And police is decreasing, but
NA ladder experience. Phone service. It's fine. This one's tech forever, so
Now I have a high quality whipping stick. Need to let it dry, then I can poke people with it. Don't sell to very rich people. That's about it. Oh, Madame Moose. Madame Moose. Madame Moose. Madame Moose. Neither of those, actually. Okay, I'll save that until then.
So I'm the highest number on any ladder, even higher than the players that are better. I know all the NA tricks. sure that I don't tide avoider is down there. Avoiders. Yeah, that has any right to be. Complete wall here.
Instead of lecturing them about food, how about we give them food? Lecturing about what they should eat, how about we give them healthy food alternatives for free? You may call that the green revolution. Instead of lecturing them about what they should eat, how about we give them something to eat? Applies across a lot of fields. But lecturing about the dangers of narcotics will sell them at a very high tax rate. Inform them that since you're going to be spending all your money on them and being poor, we might as well take our slice.
If I had a tip for lower level nerds, play the late game. Don't take risks. It's so much harder to defend. From less pressure, you expand faster than you need to.
Weird question.
Big battles. Yeah, just don't take more bases than your need for your drones. Unless you're about to mine out a base. If you want to play it like this, super late game at least. It's really mushrooms being made. Counterattacks. Rest your army defense. feel like they have an army ready to pressure you. You don't need to need the bases. Points are good, they give it yeah, you want some of them. Pre-split a bit before the fight. The reason for them is that carriers don't actually train very well against disruptors, but points train very good against disruptors. The only pointers are weak against the same as How many groups do you have in that game? Disruptor Viper on 1. Testers on 1. Army on 1. Reavers on 1. And then Resupply on 1. So 4 to 5. There's paths. This is what I was talking about earlier, like if you look at ladder. What's care ladder? What's care ladder like? How many drones do you want Link in CBP? You want like around 90 at first, and then you don't really want to replace them as you start adding scores. You go down to like 70. And then if their Protoss start sacking probes, then you want to go down to like even 50. Care ladder alter. Nice. I've been playing Bird War not in a while. Is there a confuser? What is this? Epic or someone else? Oh my god. God, this card is not happy.
Torture! Okay. Yes. Nope. And the domain was 5 seconds, milliseconds. You ended up in insane asylum being tortured by nurses. I am schizophrenic, it's a constant fear. Abortion. At Boytson. Boytson.
In the middle of the map.
Let's see if I can go to that. Well, that's truly under you there. Gangsters. Let's try to GBP guys down. Damn it.
everybody to the fact that we make bomb now.
True. For motherland. I'm sure we'd like bomb. It's annoying. Давай. Товарищ. Pitää muistaa. I don't know about to be sure. Sorry about that. Shave gaze. Shaving homos. Homo sapiens. You know they're African, right? Neanderthals are European. Habilis are Southeast Asian. I wonder what the North American variant will be called. Homo cananicus. Homo canuck. Am I still recording? Oh, mother of God, I'm still recording.
What do I do? Do it all in. I suppose.
Your computer's overheating, man.
We don't have to deal with this. God, what is...
This is what shrooms is like. Ow. Good. No hard lines and nothing. Hi guys, my computer, it make a weird line.
Turn what? Oh, turn it on and off. I haven't. That would fix it this stream at least.
Turning it upside down and shaking it.
I don't know if I'm winning or not.
Come on, swim, woman.
Are we doing it?
Squint's really hard. What else can I explode? Well, at least I'm not the only one with a broken computer. A lot of rats around here. Let's see what I've done.
On the way.
Is that the engine?
See if I can win tonight.
A true champion.
is not evil, it's just broken. I can conclude that with my rough plan. Not all that good, but Scarlett says is, better than Canada.
I'm in Scout and I can't click on anything. What's that spice? I think we got it. Making hydras at home. Who's winning the fight? Who knows?
Works for me.
Which hydra? Go attack. Don't mind the other. Attack. Hey, come on, man. Where are you buying it? I can't even see. Okay, let's restart StarCraft.
We get to see the desktop. Nah.
Pull the drones on purpose.
That was a good game. Screen glitch. I can't see. Let's go. It's punking my eye. I'm gonna do it.
serve us up for that win.
Thank you. That was a rough one.
Rough.
It keeps happening to 9 o'clock in the GPU website. I don't think I'm too. Yeah, I just switched my encoding settings on my GPU for the streaming before the stream today, so probably related to the graphics. Alright, you don't want to test out? I think it's just gonna not gonna be consistent. Okay, it didn't happen any of the games I played today. Something with the probes in that one game were stronger, yeah. Also, it's been freezing a little bit on my end. I don't know if you see that, but it says there's no drop frames, but I get a couple second freeze on my desktop sometimes. Control Shift Windows and B at the same time. I never do that before. Never do that. Alright, if there's an issue like that again. Pig with the raid. Thank you. Thank you so much for the raid. Really appreciate it. Sounds like your video card is screwed. Maybe make sure it's connected properly. It never happened before today. I don't think the GPU is broken. Your tech support, you get paid for this stuff? Ah, no, the secret shortcut.
Vomit on it. No. Urinate on it.
Yeah, Pig, you should, you've been doing those casts of my VOD games. You should look at the game right before this in the VOD. Maybe try casting that on your YouTube.
Nyt the Pago Games also appreciate
Might have got a bit triggered by that. So I don't know.
these wet branches. Think the poking stick I will turn into tea. We'll grind it up and put it into a glass of hot water and then boil it in the microwave for like 2 minutes. Then drink it. I think that's what I'll do.
Epilepsy warning? Probably, yes.
You're fucking me, lady.
We'll get drunk. The action. What's the build you use? I'm gonna pull out the old hatch block. Block the Protoss Natural build. Haven't used it in quite some time. Come on, Scott, thank you. How do we do this? Okay, first, we block. Take this. sent the drone in a tad early. This is the response you want to see if you try this build. You want them to attack your hatchery with probes because it puts you ahead. Costs them more to attack it like this than it does for you to do this hatch cancel. Well, quite happy with how this turned out. If you're really fast, you can make an evil, but not that fast. Kind of sad I lost the drone by trying that. And the next started, but we have a big advantage with the speed of our hatchery. I'm just gonna have to worry about 2 adepts possibly coming across. Stalker as well. 1 adept. No second unit. That's all for me. I assume it's gonna be a Stargate. Overlord. Nothing on the way, so I'm not concerned about losing. Not concerned about losing my Overlord to a Stalker. I was trying to say. Avoider, no Chrono Boost. Rope Panda 6 months subs. The name font's so weird. Oh, I'm using this Warcraft 3 Night Elf console, which changes the text of it. Can't use this in tournaments though because there's a bug with using consoles in tournaments, unfortunately. Or like with the observer mods. So it gives your opponent your console. Voider into Oracle. Oh, there's a cope here.
Apparently in 5 months up here, Pop.
Thank you, Maples. 5 months. I'm gonna use a tried and true Queen Walk build order while I still can. As well mine these patches out. Okay, I don't feel bad about it because this Protoss opponent is also using stuff that's getting patched out.
people build up.
I'm not the only one. Oh. Here with the files. Legal build order. Hello, Ophidia, thanks for the sub. Tactus. Thank you for the sub as well. What's this?
This game was never winnable. I was so far behind after the start, there wasn't anything I could do. I got really unlucky with the medevac. The fact you had 3 stalkers that ramped just didn't make any sense, but it was the perfect defense in Aki.
I just opened the link the time sent me. What's the standard layer timing in ZVP? Late 4 minutes. Like 440, 450-ish. Time says he's watching the top 1 Terran how to play StarCraft 2.
Yeah, I had a fun time, but I'm signing off. I think I might play something, but I don't know what yet. I might play my Stellaris.
Missing transfuse to simulate new patch, Polly. Exactly. I played Warcraft 3 before. I played a lot of custom maps in Warcraft 3 before StarCraft 2 came out. Watching ASL 13? I have
One
not.
moment.
Maybe I should. I like watching Mini play before, so I should check out his games. I thought Bisa was back. I was surprised. Three letters from typing that link. I think it was just Hierwin's latest stream pod. Custom term. I was back in Korea. I might do some custom with Jake again. I think I would cast from here though. I enjoyed the casts with Jake, like the anonymous tournaments and such in the past. We can't put that on pause. Cypher's up. Thanks for the Twitch Prime stuff.
Yeah, this is unworkable. Thank you all for participating, but I'm gonna play XCOM. The watching of the thing in the background slows the Stellaris down so much based on doing this, how long it took to load the friggin' volume bar, that it's a waste of effort. So
Term deja vu.
thank you, and it was very nice.
Probably.
Bye.
You can't use